It's springtime and time once again for the Scottish Malts. Every 2 years, Hero Events makes the traditional pilgrimage north of the border to delight in the driving and social adventure that is the Malts.
All good to go.
Now in its 16th running, this year sees many previous entrants return to share the odyssey with friends both old and new, and for a chance to replenish their stock of Scotland's most favourite tipple.
I have no comment to make whatsoever.
The world-famous Gleneagles Hotel would once again play host to both the start and the finish points of this great event. Horsepower through the ages lined up to take the challenge. But what is the specific attraction of the Malts?
The whisky.
Not the whisky. Beautiful Scottish roads.
I'm really excited to see the unexplored pieces of Scotland I've never seen, and it's a great challenge. It's the first time I'm driving in a rally, so it's all good. And the sun is shining in Scotland. What could be better?
I love
You're not
Scotland.
going to see because you're ahead of it in the book all
That's
the time.
right. I've discovered I'm not going to see Scotland at all.
This year I'm doing it with Philip Haslam. Never done an event with Philip before, so we've had one night already on our way up here and we're still speaking.
Beautiful scenery, lots of fun in old cars, that's what it's about. 1923 3-litre Bentley, it's been to Le Mans 30 times and it's competed in the vintage races at Le Mans. It's quite quick. Well, for a vintage car it's quite quick.
My son and I have a firm pact that it's sensible driving all the way, and any manoeuvrability tests with trees that leap out of the hedgerows, we're just gonna drive them nice and slow and just get round them without driving into the trees. That's my objective.
Mechanical gremlins seem to be putting in an early appearance even before drivers had turned a wheel.
Would you believe it? One cylinder's not working and the poor chaps have to change a spark plug, which is more or less, you need 2 octopuses to change a spark plug in a Porsche, and that just happened now, but at least it happened now and not tomorrow, so I'm quite relaxed. It should be good.
These are just in case we need something to do during the day, and they're for afterwards, so it'd be brilliant.
The luxurious surroundings of the Gleneagles bar was the ideal spot to peruse the route instructions. The Malts is classed as an intermediate rally, ideal for beginners and experienced crews alike, with tulip diagrams and mixed map navigation to keep navigators on their toes, while several against-the-clock tests would keep drivers busy.
So you have to have 1 minute to every...
Clerk of the Course Guy Woodcock spent some time enlightening the many newcomers to the sometimes baffling world of regularity rallying. The traditional informal welcome drinks reception heralded the start of what promised to be a week of fine driving and fine dining through some of the most spectacular scenery on offer in the British Isles.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this year's Scottish Malts.
Gleneagles, 2 Michelin-starred restaurant, was determined to put on the very best of Scottish hospitality to get the event off to a bonny start. Day 1, and Sunday morning's dawn was damp, but it seemed that spirits were still high.
Are you looking forward to this?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, it will be a great day today.
Looking forward to it. We're there. We are in it.
Are you feeling ready for this?
Yes, sir. Definitely. I hope my car feels ready also.
For some, a little helping hand was needed.
The main reason we're here is to enjoy the Scottish countryside and this little thing. So we're taking a little 9/11 round, looking forward to some sunshine.
As Metzger had come suitably attired in his Scottish Piper's Glengarry hat. 83 fine automobiles and 166 competitors were primed for the 880-mile trek over 5 days. But still, there were a few nervous faces peppering the start line.
Apprehensive because it's, my first one for 6 months, so a little bit nervous, but apart from that, all good.
I hate these moments waiting for the start. Just want to get the first couple of regularities under a belt and settle down, but apart from that, good. Weather forecast 10% chance of rain, so that's on our side. Car's going nicely, navigator looks great. All ready.
Defending Malts champion Sean Toohey was back for more.
Defending champions at the moment. It's back again, give it another week and see how it goes.
What are you expecting?
Rain.
At precisely 9:01 a.m, Graham Walker and Sean Toohey led the field away. Day one's route would take us from Gleneagles eastwards to the Kingdom of Fife, to St Andrews for lunch, and then back inland for a quick pit stop at Lindores Abbey. And finally, on to Crieff for the first of 2 nights. A gentle link section got crews out into the countryside and allowed novices to play follow the leader before tackling the first competitive regularity of the rally. With a quick time control stop at the boathouse in Kinross on the shores of Loch Leven, it was on to the first test action of the day at the Driftland circuit just north of Cowdenbeath. Father and son duo, Stephen and Tom Owens, in their newly restored 356, were fully committed to the course and posted an impressive time of 1 minute 14, which was good for the 6th fastest. Following in their wheel tracks with an identical time of 1:14 was the MG of Robert Crofton and Nicholas Ruddle, also on the ragged edge. In their Daimler Dam and with the wind in their hair, Tim and Anne Riley managed a time of 1:27. Daniel Gressley and Elise White both leading their respective championships and fresh from their triumph on the Winter Challenge to Monte Carlo, with just 2 seconds off Walker and Toohey to come third with a time of 1:13. As the rest of the crews tackled the Driftland circuit with varying degrees of gusto, those finished with the test pressed eastward along the Firth of Forth coastline. Reg 2 of the first day would even see some of the more experienced navigators falling foul to some rusty map reading skills. Once headed in the right direction, teams then arrived at St Andrews, the world-renowned golfing mecca where a welcome break awaited them.
Tell me what has happened to you.
I think it's after the track, it started, well, sounding like that. And then we went through the fields off-road and that didn't help either. So let's see how it is.
The slick, modern Fairmont Hotel provided the venue for lunch before it was off on the road once more. The historic town of St Andrews, with its midday shoppers and ruined spires, is also known for Scotland's very first university, the third to be founded in the whole of the English-speaking world, and was also where the future king first met his future queen. Returning west now, Reg 3 would take us back inland. With no less than 5 timing points, navigators were certainly being kept on their toes. The first of many distillery visits to the Malts, Lindores Abbey played host for the afternoon's tea break. As the Austin Healy Brigade sets off, it's time for yet another regularity. The springtime lanes point teams towards a truly splendid Scottish welcome at the Gleneagles estate. Hero rallies often attract the interest of the public, and it's always a welcome sight to see spectators dotted around throughout the run.
Yes, every time we've got notified we've come out, and we have 2 enthusiasts here anyway who have cars. Yeah.
The end of day 1 at the Fife Hydro Hotel provides a welcome stop from the rigours of the open road.
Well, it's been a very eventful day. As you can see by the car, we've actually been in a ploughed field, but luckily we did manage to wiggle our way out, but obviously lost a lot of time.
Driver Stephen Owens seemed to be having a bit of trouble with the car.
There's a noise coming out of the brakes, and there's a heavy vibration coming through my foot. We're just checking the wheel bearings out and checking the discs out, pads. It's all new, so it shouldn't there shouldn't be a problem, but clearly there is.
It's been challenging. We haven't got it too far wrong, and there hasn't been any words in the car, which can only be a bonus.
Good day, good start. Feel a lot better now than I did this morning with all that trepidation and everything else.
We only got lost once, and we've enjoyed the roads. And I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to dinner.
Accommodating 166 people for supper meant holding the meal in what looked like a rock concert venue. Nevertheless, it still made for fascinating conversation and the exchange of various tales from the day.
But it was a good day yesterday. Driftland was great fun. We didn't drift, but we actually did quite well. So that was nice. We've lost our joker, unlike Mr. Kleindert here, who hasn't lost his joker yet. I don't think he's trying.
I believe there's only 2 people left who can use the joker, so we're all in the same boat. Good day yesterday.
We thought the one who gets the most points wins the race. And I think we had followed that rule. How about that? Or have I made a mistake?
My navigator has decreed it's roof up time. I think it's going to be better with the roof up than the roof down, because looking at this, we've got it for most of the day, so we'll see how we get on. Should be fun though.
We broke down on the first regularity, but that took the pressure off for the rest of the rally, so that's great. Car's been running fantastic, and wife's been driving amazingly. So all in all, good.
Still married.
Today is a new day and new chance. I'm happy.
it's wonderful. I'm really enjoying it. It's a damn good event.
I'm just scared that I'm going to do my usual 0 to 0.
As we leave Crieff on a drizzly Tuesday morning, our route would traverse Perthshire, with crews taking on 5 regularities, 2 tests, 1 country house, 2 castles and 1 distillery, before returning to the Crieff Hydro for the evening's wind down. With Reg 1 done and dusted, morning coffee would be served up at Balathy House, situated on the banks of the River Tay.
We got badly bogged on, I think it was the first reg yesterday, but apart from that it's okay. Driver will arrive at everything 1 second early, but I'm trying to cure him of this habit, but I will forgive him for a second.
It's really great. We never did Scottish Malts, we did a jog several times, but this one is also very challenging, yes.
After a quick cuppa at a time control, we leave the Gothic turrets of Balathy House for the first test of the day, a blast up the main driveway. The Rapid 911 RS of Laidlaw and Davies put in a strong time that placed them in the top third of the timesheets. Father and son team of John and Freddie Evans in their Gallic Alpine Renault also put in an excellent effort with a time of 1:33, which was good for 8th fastest overall. In the confines of Balathy House's private grounds, drivers were able to push themselves and their machines to the limit in the quest for that all-elusive quick time. But after the rest of the field streamed through, it was Paul Bloxage and Ian Canavan who eventually stole the show with a time of 1 minute and 22 seconds. Regularity 2 sees us once more on the open road and taking in more of Scotland's glorious history. The stop for the day's lunch, Glamis Castle, was the childhood home of the Queen Mother and birthplace of Princess Margaret, Countess of Snowdon.
Oh, I love the malt. I did it 2 years ago with my father, and I'm doing it this year in a different car. But it's really challenging, lovely roads. I'm still yet to see a red squirrel. But yeah, enjoying it.
I've got my youngest son with me, and it's his first ever event, and unbelievably, we were lying in 5th place at close of business last night, so that's absolutely astonishing.
Well, it's a lot of fun. Lovely to see some old chums. I wish they'd turn the rain off a little bit, though. It just seems to be starting. It's only arrived since you did.
A motley crew of travellers dined in the quaint surroundings of the castle's restaurant. This hearty repast would prepare crews for the afternoon trek ahead. Leaving Glamis Castle behind, the view of the snow-covered hills, even in spring, reminded us of just how far north we actually were. Passing by the Firth of Tay, it's on to the second test of the day.
2, 1, go!
In the shadow of a World War II Spitfire, the test was a Jacob's Ladder puzzle. Boxes marked out by cones formed a grid whereby teams would have to work out how to cross each of the connecting lines without any written direction. As this was something of an on-the-spot intellectual problem, depending upon how they approached the test, crews would have varying degrees of success. After the brain teaser of the test and another regularity, the coffee stop was at the magnificent Merthley Castle, where drivers and navigators have the chance to swap notes on the challenges of the adventure so far.
Definitely not an ace navigator.
What about the driver?
Oh, he's definitely not ace.
The final competitive challenge of the day was a regularity named Little Glenshee, which takes us through the rolling hills and fertile farmlands west of Perth on our way back towards the overnight halt in Fife. A few hazards along the way presented our crews with a ford and the chance to cool off. As shadows started to lengthen, the last stop of the day would be the famous grouse experience at Glenturret Distillery. This final timing point allowed time for a breather and to stock up on some fine single malts. Many a competitor had set themselves the added challenge of procuring a bottle of whisky from every distillery on the rally.
We've had an excellent day. We haven't had any big mess-ups today. Driver hasn't messed up, navigator hasn't messed up.
Driving was perfect, navigator, well, I suggest you talk to him and ask him where it went wrong.
Well, the driver can't get to speed ride, so I've done immaculate navigation, but he's either arriving too early or too late at our timing points.
As day 2 draws to a close, it's time to check positions and then retire to the bar for a whisky. Day 3, and as the crews readied themselves for another exciting morning, a late arrival had turned up.
Day 3 and we made it. Scottish Malts. We were at the wrong rally. Just kidding. We're late because the car wasn't working properly, so we had to reset the carburetors and we had to do something else, can't remember what. I bleed all the brakes. So, you know, usual story, but no big drama. We're here now.
We missed a whole day yesterday. We started off at the first regularity, first fuel pump went. Dave fitted an auxiliary fuel pump, bypassed everything.
We thought it was fixed, but then this morning, same problem again. So we're trying to fix it now.
Yesterday, on the second to last regularity, we had a bit of a hiccup in as much as we were using the instructions for the last regularity. That just dropped us about 20 places. So hopefully we won't have a recurrence of that today.
The performance level is really demanding, and I'm quite impressed with the group of people that are part of this rally. It's everyone in the room can do it. It's just amazing to me. I think it's really pretty special to be part of it.
Leg 3 would see the long push up north as we leave the Fife Hydro Hotel behind and make our way to the Killin Hotel for morning coffee. From there it's on to the Gleneagles Hotel and then a test at the Ben Nevis Distillery before skirting around the shores of Loch Ness and onto the overnight stop in Inverness. Nearly halfway through the rally and the leaderboard had a familiar look to it. Previous Malts winners Walker and Tui were in top spot, closely pursued by Bloxwich and Canavan in their 911, and just 3 seconds behind them were Gressley and White. With teams raring to go, some needed a helping hand to get started. The early morning's regularities would take us through the grey mist-covered hills around the peaceful Loch Earn, where some very strange folk seem to be manning the timing points. passing over the waterfalls of Dockard, now in full flow, bolstered by melting snows. The morning's coffee halt was at a favourite of hero events, the Gleneagles Hotel, last visited 4 months earlier on the jog.
Regularities this morning pretty tricky, trying to keep up to time on the very, very narrow lanes, but yeah, a lot of potholes. Great fun though, really good.
The dramatic landscape of what must surely have been one of Scotland's most scenic natural attractions made up the next regularity as crews passed through the iconic Gleneagles National Nature Reserve. Formed by an Ice Age glacier, the spectacular location has been a favourite with filmmakers for years, most recently featuring in the 2012 James Bond film Skyfall. And just like something straight out of the adventures of 007, the icing on the cake was being buzzed by 2 RAF fighters. After the glorious drive through Gleneagles and our fleeting encounter with the boys of the RAF, a spot of light lunch would be most welcome at the Regularity Hotel, which is situated on the meeting point of Loch Linney and Loch Leven. Lunch was served.
Good regularity this morning. It was interesting timing points when there aren't any timing points, but no, it's great. It's a great rally this, and the scenery's just got fantastic, hasn't it?
The rally's been fantastic. Yeah, had a great route from Gleneagles out to St Andrews, and then today back into Glencoe. It's been brilliant.
No meltdowns in the car with the navigator. Didn't fall asleep, so everything's fine so far. We shall see this afternoon.
There's no shortage of whisky emporiums to visit in these parts, and a stop off at Fort William and then Ben Nevis Distillery simply could not be missed. Here, a test dodging the whisky barrels would have more than a few crews in a spin.
Right of sea 180, right of sea 180. And then go stop the stride.
While the nimbler machines made light work of the tight turn spaces, others, like Bill Kleindirt and Jackie Norman, found manoeuvring the monstrous Bentley a bit of a handful. Leaving Ben Nevis behind, our route took us along the Great Glen, a 62-mile-long valley which follows the geological fault that bisects the Highlands. Coffee would be at the Boathouse restaurant by the calm-looking waters of Loch Ness.
We're at the edge of Loch Ness, and we're all keeping half an hour for Nessie just in case she's in residence.
We actually know how we've managed to get here, which is quite impressive just on its own. But other than that, I'm afraid I have very little else to show off about.
All I can say, it's a lot better than yesterday. I had a terrible day yesterday afternoon, and today's been much better.
The 2 final regularities of the day see teams meander north, tracing the length of Loch Ness on our way to Inverness and the final destination of Leg 3. In total, our crews had travelled nearly 200 miles over the course of the day. journey's end, and the comfort of the Kingsmills Hotel awaits.
Today's been fabulous. Haven't done so well with the regularities, but scenery's been fabulous.
It's fantastic. It's wonderfully organised, fantastic roads, a great event.
The car started misfiring on Monday, but it cleared, and the guys had a look at it and thought it might be plugs, so they were changed. On Tuesday it got worse, and today it's terrible. We've not been on anything other than 5 cylinders. It's dropped to 4, and now it's on 3. But we won't be able to start tomorrow if it's like we just finished today.
As the evening draws in, that most comfortable of spots was clearly the bar, where there was time to compare notes from what had been a truly spectacular day. Day 4 of the Malts, and the battle for the top spot was hotting up.
Currently first, I've just started day 4. It's very close at the top. I think there's about 6 points between the top 4 crews. As the scoreboard stands, it'd be Paul Bloxage in the Porsche, but I've heard he's had a problem overnight, so it now falls to Daniel Gressley and Elise White in another Porsche.
At the top, it's just ridiculously close. There's a couple of seconds between us. Anything can happen. All you need is a lapse of concentration, and then you've lost it. So it's all about staying focused and hopefully getting zeros.
As drivers readied their machines, it appeared that Paul Bloxage and Ian Canavan could go no further.
It's probably piston rings gone. The boys did a fantastic job helping me, trying to support me to isolate the problem, and eventually we all gave up last night.
Poor old Paul and Ian, I feel terribly sorry for them. They've tried really hard and it must be gutting for them.
We finished the day yesterday. That's the best thing about it. Car ran beautifully yesterday. We didn't go through any fuel pumps, which was great.
We even got a 0 on
Yeah, we even got a 0 on one.
First ever. So,
So yeah, no,
There we
it's
go.
good. So we're just checking everything today, and hopefully it starts, goes, and we're going to have another good day.
After a quick stop at the first distillery of the day, we then cross over to the western side of Loch Ness and press northwards over the Cromarty Firth and up to Bonner Bridge. We then turn tail and head back south, taking in both the Balblair and the Glenmorangie distilleries before the last dash back to base at Inverness. Leaving the Kingsmills Hotel, it wasn't long before we were out in the countryside and into our first regularity. Graham Walker and Sean Toohey aced the regularity with just a 1-second penalty, but even so, they were still being pressed hard by the chasing pack. The mixture of conifer-lined lanes and open terrain made for an ideal motoring battleground. Well, this is Scotland, and this is the Malts after all. Yet another famous distillery played host to the next passage control. Jonathan Turner was certainly making up for lost time and had evidently abandoned the idea of 1 bottle per distillery.
This is very nice. This is the artisan one. You can only buy that at the distillery, so I had to come here to buy it. That's the 18-year-old one. That's super cool. And this is a special one from Oban. We're on the Malts. It's what you do.
I did a really good London-Lisbon with Hero, and I thought if they could do a rally that was that good, then I'd try another one, and it's well up to scratch. Brilliant.
Picking up the mid-rally booby prize the night before, navigator Philip Haslam seemed to have changed for the better.
I've gone turned from navigator to normal wife. I've been telling him to change his underwear and changing his socks, and
He's turned obnoxious overnight.
Under heavy skies, the competition resumed with the second regularity of day 4. The more sedate pace of the regularity allowed the crews time to really enjoy the ride as they traversed the wilderness that is known as the Black Isle. before crossing the Cromarty Firth en route to lunch at the 4-star Kincraig Castle Hotel, once the home of generations of the Clan Mackenzie.
This morning was a long regularity and we were a bit slow on a couple of the checkpoints. Not quite where we wanted to be, but hopefully pick up another place or so, hopefully later today.
Ian Canavan was taking like a duck to water to his new role, that of a time control marshal. Kind of like a poacher turned gamekeeper.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, okay. I'm learning, I'm in training.
The afternoon's drive to the most northerly point of the rally takes teams to Bonner Bridge, a town in the north bank of the Carn of Sutherland, a name derived from Old Norse. The area itself formed the southern part of the Viking province of Cat. As we headed south across Dornoch Firth, we stopped at 2 distilleries, the first being Balblair.
Great day so far. Got a novice navigator and we've been pretty much on the money all day, so very happy.
Also en route was the Glenmorangie distillery, producer of one of the best-selling single malts in Scotland. Thankfully, only the navigators were allowed to sample the fine wares. It was doubtful, though, that a drop of the liquid gold would actually improve one's navigational skills. The only test of the day was held on the spectacular grounds of the Balnagown Castle and Estate. Once the ancestral home of the Earl of Clan Ross, it was purchased in 1972 by Egyptian business magnate Mohammed Al Fayed, who has since endeavoured to restore it. This was a rare treat for rally participants, as very few people actually get to venture inside the estate these days. Topping the test timesheet was the 911 of Gressley and White, who put in a time of 58 seconds. They were the only crew to complete the course in under a minute. The final regularity of the day would see us back at the Kingsmills Hotel for the last overnight stop of the rally.
We are really competitive, Elise and I, because we are such a great team and we enjoyed, especially the test. It was a really great test.
How's it going, Jackie?
Oh, okay, I think. Not brilliant, but okay. So can I leave it at that?
As night fell, the buzz around the bar was over how the day went, but more importantly, what was to come tomorrow. Friday, and the last day of the Scottish Malts 2018. Going into the final leg, the leaderboard sees Graham Walker and Sean Toohey still in the top spot, but challenging that lead are Gressley and White, just 10 seconds behind. Bill Kleindert and Jackie Norman are now in a solid third.
How many seconds are you ahead?
About 10, I think. But it's not a lot. We can easily make a mistake today.
It's all very tight, and it has been for the whole week, so it's been very exciting.
So today anything can happen, and I've got no doubt there'll be a sting in the tail. I know Guy Woodcock too well.
Leaving Inverness, we head for the first of the day's regularities and a stop at the Tomatin Distillery. Then the route takes us south past the winter ski resort of Aviemore and on to the Dalwhinnie Distillery before stopping for lunch and a test at Blair Castle. After lunch, it's a skirt around the Burra Pit Lochary and the Blair Athol Distillery before the final push southwest of Perth to the finish arch back at Gleneagles. At the passage control at the Tomatin Distillery, there's time only for a quick in and out for our crews. Even though there were a few grey clouds, the final day of the rally saw teams blessed with glorious weather, but not always completely well in the idyllic Scottish countryside, as Matthew Polk and Amy Gould would soon find out in their Healy Westland.
It's been running beautifully today, until it didn't. It just stopped. We stopped to take a photo. But we did get a beautiful photo. Note to self, next time, spare coil in the parts kit.
Following the old cattle drovers' routes through the mountains, we arrive at the Dalwhinnie Distillery, the highest in Scotland at 1,164 feet above sea level. The brief stop should have been a simple passage control, but for some it seemed to be turning into an extravagant shopping spree.
This is a limited edition one of only 6,000 bottles, so I've bought all 6,000.
A link section takes us through what is the official centre of Scotland and across some of the country's most atmospheric moorlands. If it's Scotland, then it's got to be another magnificent castle. The grounds of Blair Castle are near the village of Blair Athol and is home to the only legal private army in Europe, the Athol Highlanders. The last lunch of the Scottish Malts was fittingly hosted in the beautiful and tradition-steeped setting of the Grand Hall. The final test of the rally will be held on the driveway of Blair Castle. Dicing with the close confines of tree-lined avenues and stone walls would be a challenge for even the nimblest of machines.
But apart from that, fantastic.
A gentle link section leads on from the lunch stop and onto the passage control at the Blair Athol Distillery. This will be the last chance for our teams to stock up on Scotland's most famous export. The last two final regularities of the rally would see our weary crews head back to Gleneagles, the place where it all began just 5 days previously. Now, at journey's end, and the battle for top spot could not be closer.
Marvellous. What a great experience again. Honestly, did this 8 years ago and it was good fun. But this time, even better.
We've had a wonderful time. Absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
Scenery has been glorious. The weather's been kind.
Brilliant event. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Lots of stress, lots of smiles and lots of love. So, yeah, great.
Tough day today. Yeah, we were doing quite well until this morning, and then it all went wrong. So we'll see where we end up.
We're just waiting for the results out. We don't know. We've been fourth all day. We were fourth at lunch, and we're waiting to see what's happened.
We have no idea who's won. It could be Sean, it could be me. We don't know.
I think it's a draw.
But who's the best driver?
We are, of course.
Close, we're very close. We're close, we're together.
With the top two crews on exactly the same timing, the final result had to be decided on a countback of penalty points. This placed Walker and Tui above Gressley and White for the win. And with just 31 seconds behind, the Bentley of Kleindirt and Norman placed a strong third. The usual closing awards ceremonies ended the evening in style.
So third overall in this year's Scottish Malts goes to Bill Kleindirt and Jackie Norman, ladies and gentlemen. The second overall goes to Daniel Gressley and Elise White, ladies and gentlemen. So the winner of this year's Scottish Malts goes to Graham Walker and Sean Tui, ladies and gentlemen.
The fight for the Hero Cup for drivers sees Daniel Gressley firmly in top spot, with Bill Kleindirt and Paul Bloxich sitting in second and third respectively. Elise White heads the field for the Golden Roma for navigators, while Pete Johnson and Andrew Durden are neck and neck in the battle for second place.
Ladies and gentlemen, your health and haggis.
But with 6 rallies left in the year, anything could happen. Join us next time for the Summer Trial, a 2-day blast around the beautiful Peak District.